So hello, hello. Today I'm sitting down with the gorgeous Zoe Clews, who is the founder and a hypnotherapist herself of her amazing company, Zoe Clews and Associates. I met Zoe a few months ago where I was desperately searching high and low for a hypnotherapist, specifically one that not only was into hypnotherapy, but someone that I just really energetically felt connected to. So I kind of very randomly Googled and immediately, Zoe, you popped up. And
Amazing.
right, but
Thank
also,
you, Google search.
I know, but also for all of those that knows me, I'm all about the feeling of a person. So before I even read any of your amazing reviews, by the way, Zoe, or anything about what you really did, I just sort of took a little moment, tuned into you, and I was like, it's a yes. And then,
Oh, what a yes.
needless to say that then I went ahead, had the session, experienced the most profound healing and still has, still impacted very much by that incredible session. And hence why today it is with great pleasure, great honor, great joy that I'm sitting down with the beautiful Zoe. So sorry, Zoe. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the
Thank
podcast.
you. And I'm so delighted. Lovely to be here. And I'm so delighted that you're still feeling the benefits. It's such a joy to work with you. I love working with people that are really open because it's so easy. It's so easy.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good to have you here. And especially, sorry, it's just, I think especially your energy and how you've got the ability to sort of hold the duality of the world. So I feel both your power, your fire, your fierceness. And then I also have not only experience, but, also can see how you work with the gentleness, the openness, the intuitive, the feminine, so to have to dance with those duality concepts. And also in terms of, you have not only do you practice hypnotherapy, but you've created a whole business around it, right? And a highly successful one. So to be able to work in the physical world, right? With a concept that to many people is still kind of, oh, we don't really get it, right? So also from that perspective of being a very highly successful female founder of something that to so many people is still a mystery. So I'm sitting here going, so sorry, share with us from the beginning. Let's go back in time. Where did you start out? What was your journey? So let's start at the beginning. Where were you born
Yeah.
and who were you born into? What kind of system?
Okay, I was born into, I was like, I always say it's this, it was like two very long lines of lunatics kind of came together, dovetailed, my mum and dad met, God bless them. Um, Two really long lines of trauma, actually, two really long lines of generational trauma. And I'm always really big on, the concept of cycle breakers, right? It's like one soul comes in, or two or three in a family. Yeah, you know that one. And you've almost got this big cleanup job to do. And look, it can sound a bit self-mythologizing as well. I'm always trying to be aware of that. But at the same time, I do think cycle breakers exist. And I do think, they come in and it's like, your job is to be psychologically awake and not only, work on clearing the stuff that perhaps they didn't have the resources, the money, the awareness. I mean, who had therapy like back then? Who had hypnotherapy? Hardly anyone. It just wasn't thing, so we've got very poor, two really long lines of, lots and lots and lots of trauma, and really kind of, God, my dad's side is all kind of like murderers and drug addicts and God knows what. They're both from Scousers. So really I'm a Scouser. But I grew up in Maidstone in Kent, moved to London when I was 17. And mum's side, a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty there. And they met, and in many ways it was this kind of like, they were both artists. It was this kind of super creative background. Like I wasn't allowed to really watch TV or any of that stuff. It wasn't kind of like a junkie kind of childhood, even though we were really sort of poor and we didn't have any money, and it was really, really tough, and there was lots of trauma and difficulty. And my dad was in and out of prison all the time as well. He'd been really traumatized. Everyone had been, really. It was just an enormous amount of pain in the system that me and my sister were born into. And obviously you've got no idea what's going on. My supervisor says it's a bit like this, when you grow up in that kind of complex trauma background, it's a bit like being a toddler dumped on a sort of four-way kind of intersection and told cope,
Yeah.
with oncoming traffic. So I think that's the best description I've ever read. So you just don't know, it's just madness, right? So There was some really beautiful things about it. There was a lot of love, but everyone was, really compromised. They were acting out their own trauma. There was a lot of addiction, a lot of issues. We weren't very safe, me and my sister, in lots of ways. So there was loads and loads of complex trauma. So my background is complex trauma. That's what I specialize in. I've really lived it. I've kind of really gone through what works. I've done loads of things that don't work. I spent thousands of pounds, if not tens of thousands of pounds, on things that don't work. And now I know what does. That's why I think that I'm really fast when I'm working with people with complex trauma. I can identify things quickly. And listen, complex trauma isn't always fast to resolve. It often isn't. It's a long old journey. But when you work with somebody and they can identify it really quickly, and they've got that really deep lived embodied experience, and they really get the pain and stuff like that, I think it's very reassuring for people, because it's so confusing. It took me years to work out what was going on for me. So we grew up in this background where it was lots of art, music, nature, stuff like that. No money, lots of difficulty, lots of pain. There was nearly taken to care about 3 times. It was that kind of really crazy childhood. And so by the time I turned 14, I was pretty wild, because I wanted to be like my dad. My dad was like the exciting one. He was the artist. He was very good looking. He was incredibly talented. And for all of his talent, it was matched equally by his ability to self-destruct. So, my parents were both very talented people, but they came from working class Liverpool, It was all like, don't get above your station. I often think like me and my sister, she's really talented artist and photographer and a therapist herself. We were the ones that sort of like, okay, let's do something with this. We were able to have some more resource, so I emerged from that pretty wild. I was 14, like I sort of became a bit pretty, and then like suddenly had loads of attention. For me, that was like a flashlight. Suddenly my life went from feeling very dark and oppressive to suddenly I had some kind of currency. So I was this kind of 14-year-old growing up in Maidstone. I was always outgoing. Yeah, I was just wild and feral, and I got kicked out of school, basically. Yeah, so I was like, because the thing is, I was just acting out all the time, and my mantra growing up was, I'll do what I want, thanks. Which is kind of like, I've got my old teenage diaries from that time, and I admire my spirit. I had no self-awareness whatsoever. I mean, who does at 16, right? I don't want to meet a self-aware 16. Actually, some 16-year-olds are self-aware now. I don't really want to meet them. I was totally unconscious and having a great time, but I was always really surprised when there was consequences. Absolutely. I just thought that I was so clever and that I knew it all. So I was always getting in various forms of trouble. Then I went into the whole 90s rave scene. And for me, that was a great time to be alive, But again, I wasn't thinking, I wasn't in touch with any of the trauma or anything like that. I was just out having an amazing time. Kicked out of school, worked as a rave dancer, not a stripper, a rave dancer. There's just had like, and then just, I sort of drifted. I knew I wanted to be in London. That's all I really knew. There's often been a few things in life that I've just known one thing, like I knew I wanted to be in London. And then I just did lots of sort of temp jobs, really, where I wasn't really using my brain. And then I started working in the music industry, which was really good fun. It was till I was 23. I got employed by Ministry of Sound. And a lot of time I just employed for my personality because, I wasn't very good, because I was always just out getting off my head. I often didn't turn up. Like I work, I have amazing interns that I work with now, and they're always like super smart and together and everything. That was not me in my 20s. I was such a young 20-year-old. I was always drunk and everything else. So and I meet these amazing young women now, and I'm like, you really have your shit together. And I just didn't I could just about hold a job down. But so I was like, I really need to do something. And I was working in the music industry, different jobs, having a great time, sort of. But, I was battling with my self-esteem, stuff like that. I didn't realize how complex PTSD, any of those things. But I did know sort of 3 things. I knew that 1, I wanted to work for myself. 2, I wanted to be well known for what I did. And 3, I wanted to help people. That's all I knew. I didn't know what that looked like or what shape that was going to take. And I was known as a real party girl. So no one would have thought. I remember saying to someone, oh, I want to do this. And they'd just laugh. What, you? It was like a real, it was a real rites of passage for me to move into being a hypnotherapist. So again, I think I went traveling to Thailand, and I had a bit of a spiritual awakening there, and I came back and I thought, okay, I've got to do something different. So I was trying out lots of different courses like Reiki and all these things, which were beautiful, but nothing really gripped me by the throat. And then I actually started off doing a past life course, and I didn't do it to be a past life regression. I never thought I could do it. I didn't have the confidence. My self-esteem was really low. For all my acting out and kind of masking, actually deep down, I didn't have any confidence. because I'd never been taught that, right? So I didn't have parents who embodied that. So, you know, your worldview is, you know, you haven't had that healthy mirroring that you need to build that sense of self. Obviously, you can build that sense of self as an adult, you know, which is obviously what I've had to do. So I did the past life course, and I spent quite a long time training in that. And then I was like, oh, I might do the hypnotherapy course. My tutor, and no one really believed in me, right? Because I was this party girl, no one really took me seriously. I was always getting fired. I worked for this music industry guy who was a real dick, and then he fired me. And he said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to be a hypnotherapist. And again, he laughed because I started doing this course. Anyway, I went to do my exams for the first part of the course. And I said to my tutor, said to me, how Dr. Keith Hearn, I actually wrote a blog about him. I'm very grateful to Dr. Keith Hearn, European College of Hypnotherapy. And he said to me, how are you, Zoe? And I said, well, I'm not great, I've been fired. And he said, well, why don't you fast track the hypnotherapy course? So you do it in months rather than kind of like years or whatever. And I said, I don't have any money. So I never had any money then either. Because, you know, I was just, of course, I was terrible with money as well. It's just another feature of my trauma. I'd get paid and it would go within 3 days, you know, and then I'd be really shocked, as if what else could happen, you know?
Right.
And then I did the hypnotherapy course. No, he said to me, you can fast track it, you can do the intensive. He said, but you have to promise me that you start immediately. You have to put an ad in the paper and advertise. And I just thought, and he said, and I'll lend you the money to do it, pay me back when you've got clients. And I was like, wow. I remember walking home from the course, it was in Regent's College, and I remember walking home thinking, oh my God, it's a real moment. I remember thinking, oh my God, am I actually gonna do this? So I did do it, and I was so scared of telling people that I was going to be a hypnotherapist. And I did tell people. I told 5 people, and 5 people laughed in my face. I think someone else said to me, oh, I said, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist. Someone said to me, what, dress like that? Because I was wearing some sort of see-through top at the time, you know, just like, and then I basically, I did it. And I was so scared. I finished, I got my past this, everything else. And he said to me, Dr. Keith Hearn said to me, you're a natural. And nobody said it was a good idea. Mum said it was weird. Dad said it was weird. Like, nobody thought I'd make any money from it. I think I even spoke to someone from Registering Body, said, oh, you'll never make a living out of it. You know, nobody encouraged me apart from Dr. Keith Hearn, who said, just do it. Now, I was so scared to put an advert in the paper, but I was more scared. It was like a double bind, right? That was really helpful. I was more scared to let him down because he believed me. I didn't want to renege on a promise. So I put an advert in the paper and I got a client. And I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't use my real name. I used my middle name, which is Annis, Annis, Zoe Annis. I got a client, went really well. They booked again. And then it just flowed. And it was the first thing in my life, apart from male attention, that had actually worked. It was amazing. It was like, and I remember going to see like a psychic or something at the time, and they were like, oh, everything just been ripped apart from you, and spirit have been like, you've just got to start now. And it was this huge upgrade, because it was a huge identity crisis for me, and I was very ashamed, because, you know, a big part of complex PTSD is you carry a lot of shame, you know, which I've metabolized again and again and again over the years. You know, it's almost like an aquifer, and you have to go in and drain it out, and you go in and drain it out. There's always more layers, like the endless onion, I call it. So, but at that time, I was in my 20s. I was this party girl, you know, but I knew I had a natural talent. I felt like it just felt so natural to me. You know, I think actually I'd also been acted as a therapist to my mum and dad as a kid. So when I went and did it, I was very
100%.
So it was so natural to me to be like, oh yeah, you know, and so I was very comfortable with that. So I know, anyway, it flowed like nothing else, and nobody was more surprised than me. Everyone around me was astounded. I was like, I felt like I won the lottery. And I built it up from there. And obviously I didn't work with huge things like complex trauma. I didn't know what complex trauma was. I worked with things like phobias, and I worked with things like anxieties, like public speaking. So you know, I don't think anyone really, unless you've had incredible training, should start off with complex trauma, you know, but the course was really good. It was, you know, the stuff that he taught me, the inner child work, the cord cutting, you know, obviously I've done more training over the years, and it's become more sophisticated, and my knowledge has increased because I work every single week with a kind of supervisor and there's nothing she doesn't know, right? She's 77. She's like an encyclopedia of trauma tech. She knows everything. So I'm working every single week to understand more and more about all the different things, narcissism, inner child work, you know, all of the, you know, the negative introject, all of the stuff. So I've added and added and added, and this is what I can work with. I love working with really difficult things like generational trauma. I like getting my hands dirty, complex trauma, you know, all those stuff. And now I do things like smoking, stuff like that, but it's the stuff that it's the really complex issues. That's what I really like working with. So I built it up over the years. And then at one point I was like, okay, I was booked out all the time. And I thought there's only so many people I can help, just me. So that's when I added some associates. And then it's lonely working on your own all the time.
Oh
You
my
know,
God,
so, isn't it?
100%. And I'm just gonna pause you there for a second.
Yeah, I
'Cause
haven't
I
stopped
could just
talking.
no, listen, there's no like you no, it's just so you can catch your breath and just so listeners can be like, wow, there's so much in there. I love it so. This is incredible. And first of all, I just want to really highlight again, because this is exactly what I was like receiving from you just when I got your name all those months ago. It's just your genuineness. I don't know if you can even say that in English, but like,
Yeah.
there is no bullshit about you. You're just raw, powerful, so much empathy, so much heart. These are qualities that have to be lived experience. It's, so I'm all about, of course, go and study all the rest of it, but like, these are qualities that we only get to when we've been to the bottom and back. And no one can teach you that, and no one can, share that with you. We all have to go on our own individual journeys. And so when I tuned into you, like that was so what was coming through, and it is such a joy that I know that right now people from all around the world will be benefiting just from being introduced to you. So while you're taking a breather, I'm just sitting here going like, to listeners out there, notice the raw openness that Zoe, like what you are sharing with us, because so often, especially this thing that I love the subject of shame, this big,
no one wants to talk about shame. They know people are ashamed of talking about shame, and it's really important we talk about shame because it doesn't metabolize, because it's so hidden. Because even with fear, even with paralyzing fear, you can push through, but shame does something else. It kind of like it pins you to the ground. It's beyond paralyzing, actually. Shame.
100%, right? And I'm actually, by the way, I just want to like do a little side note. I'm trying to remember, are you Scorpio? What's your star sign again?
I'm Sagittarius, but
You are Saggy like me, yeah.
Yeah, I've got Sagittarius. Oh yeah, so we had this conversation, but I've got Scorpio stellium and a Sagittarius stellium.
Yeah, right.
I've got triple Scorpios, which I've got Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio, which is the hypnotist actually, and then I've got something else in Scorpio.
So Mercury for me is also in Scorpio. My Pluto
really?
is in Scorpio.
I think that's my Pluto's in Scorpio. I think that's what my Pluto's in Scorpio. That's what it is.
There we go, right? And then almost everything else for me is Sagittarius. So that's also the Sagittarius that we've both got. Yeah, which is amazing. But yeah, so just like going into that gorgeous, deep, juicy subject of the whole shame and how you're just sharing all of this so openly and as it should be. Yeah, like I get so crazy passionate about this, right? Because it's like, and hence also that's why I made the whole podcast, because I wanted everyone out there to listen to stories from, and I don't care, like, not everyone needs to be a hypnotherapist or an energy healer like me or a coach, whatever. But it's like, it's more that complete honest sharing of like, our greatest trauma, our greatest pain that we all experience. No one goes through life without great pain. Like it doesn't happen.
There is. Like this, I remember reading a really good book, Road Less Traveled, and it said, there will be like something like suffering, we will have suffering, and trying to avoid it is just magical thinking.
Of course. And also that thing of how you are sharing so openly of like, this was my starting point. This is what I came into, that very vivid image of you
sitting. Like a really low bar.
Right, well, just like, you got plunked into like the crossway of like, crazy traffic from everywhere. And you're like, now cope, right? Like,
yeah.
Right? Like cope with that. But sharing that is the making of who you are today, right? It informed all of your choices, even though it wasn't fun. No. But like sharing fully openly, there's no shame around, this happened to me. It's like, yeah, it would have been great if it hadn't, but on the other hand, you wouldn't be half the woman you are today, right?
Yeah.
And like to really, I just love the openness in that conversation, because my next podcast coming up is going to be called We Need to Talk. And it's just giving that openness to like, there is so many things that we hide. We hide in our relationship, we hide within ourselves. We're not even fully wanting to get real about it, honest about it within ourselves. So to sit here and witness you sharing all of these completely like open-minded, like this is what happened, Josie, blah, blah, blah. Like I am just loving it so much. And I'm like, yes, like let's all do that out there. You know, like everyone experiences these things. And it can truly, without sounding super cliche, your greatest pain can become your greatest purpose if you are open to it. So
yeah, and I was thinking about something today, funny enough. I was walking across the road and I remember this kind of really good saying. It's TJ Harbeck or something. It's like, every master was once a disaster. And I was just thinking, I was so the way, because the thing is, one of the things the complex trauma did, it made me sort of like unable to function. Like I said, how I was with money, I would just throw it away. Relationships, I just wouldn't understand. And I was just sort of, I had to kind of like, I feel like a disability, really. Do you see what I mean? The level of trauma. So, you know, I had to really relearn stuff that people had learned. You know, I had to unlearn so many things, and I had to relearn other things. Thankfully, I'm a fast learner. I mean, thank goodness, you know. But yeah, it's kind of, and it's really important to be able to talk about these things, because actually, you know, people talk about the attention economy. I think we're going to have the authenticity economy, because that's what's interesting. You know, the people I like talking to, the people who tell me their real stories, I don't want to hear some professional spiel. It's kind of like I can look on ChatGPT for that. You know, it's not interesting, is it? It's like, I think authenticity is the direction of travel now, thankfully. And then of course there's this other lovely thing that I read once as well, and it was like, you know, if you're fully yourself, it gives other people permission to be themselves as well. It's infectious. It's so infectious.
Oh, 100%, right? Like it's so beautiful. And then and again, like that was the whole reason for why I connected with you so much, because I was like, oh, yay, there she is, right? You know, and for me it was a massive thing, because like I've worked in this industry for so many years, and as much as I believe in lots of different tools and this and that, I'm more than anything, I believe in the connection of the energetic blueprint of people. So i.e. your
Yeah,
authentic self, right?
so agree, because it's all about, you know, people talk about, oh, this tool and this strategy. It's the connection with somebody that heals, especially when there's been like, I don't know, grievous harm. It's that safe. It's always about the safety, because I've had arguments with hypnotherapists before about, they're like, oh, I can cure anything in one session. I get really angry about this. And I think rightly so, because what it does, it gives the client the impression that if they go in, and often they've had like a lifetime of complex trauma, there's no way you're going to heal that in one session. It's just ridiculous. About the hypnotherapist's ego. You know, I had real
100%.
set twos with people about this, and it's kind of like, it's actually, you know, it's about the, you know, that's about the hypnotherapist's ego. It's not all the therapist or whoever that is. It's kind of like, it's the connection over time. And actually, when you have been severely, chronically, acutely traumatized, you're not going to instantly always have it's going to take time, because it's that repair. That's why something like psychotherapy can be absolutely beautiful and amazing. I love psychotherapy as well. Because a lot of hypnotherapists can slag off psychotherapy, and I'm like, there's so many amazing modalities, because it's reparenting, and some people need reparenting. They do, you know. And that, some people might say that sounds kind of, oh, you're an adult, you shouldn't need to be reparented, but they do, you know. I know that I did.
Of course. And also, I mean, you know, like we're talking about changing the pathways within the brain, and from there changing, like even just realizing that, okay, just because it's in my mind and it's been in my mind for long enough that now I've created like a physical emotion about it, and then I have it for long enough that now I believe it's true, right?
Yeah,
You're wanting to
exactly.
change that. Like that takes time, and it also takes time to realize that, again, just because it's a thought, an idea about who I am and who am I not, doesn't make it real. And it definitely doesn't make it right for me to continue to be thinking that, and therefore having that feeling, and therefore creating that action in my life, continuing the same pattern, right? So if you're wanting to change any of that, like all of that takes time. But
it does. And it's, you know, and the thing is as well, one thing I've really understood from my supervisor, like I said, she's just amazing. She's a bit of my hero, really. But she talks about the, you know, I talked about, you know, being born into this kind of system, because the family system is its own organism in and of itself. Now, all those voices, you know, that you've had in there, all their trauma, all their inherited beliefs, you know how some people inherit castles and like paintings and stuff. I was like, oh no, I inherited trauma. Yay, trauma. Great. Can't sell it. Oh, actually, I've turned it into a business. Yeah, okay, I've done that. Yeah, just to a turn-based medal into gold. But it's like, you know, it's all of those voices, but that becomes the voice in your head. That's the negative introject, the voice of the dysfunctional family. And people see a large part of my recovery was really like, you know, because before I understood any of this stuff, you just don't know, right? I thought it was the voice of truth. I didn't realize it wasn't even my voice. I thought it was just like, oh, that's who I am. And the day that I realized, oh, hang on a minute, actually, it's talking bullshit, that was when I suddenly thought, oh, I can do anything. That was a real moment for me. And I was like, right, I'm going to build an empire.
Oh my God, I fucking love it. Sorry, my language. No, but this is so true. It's that moment where you're breaking free from yourself because you're realizing, you're like, there's a me who's observing all the 500 voices. I am not just the voices. That means I have a separate identity.
Yes, exactly.
And like you said, that means I can do fucking anything.
Yeah.
Anything is possible, right?
Yeah,
Because you're so right. Until you have that moment, and that moment comes to different, you know, to all of us at different times, for different reasons, for different modalities, whatever, life experiences, whatever. But when you have that moment, and actually, if we dive in, because I think it's really important, because you and I are so in this, and you and I can just have an in-depth conversation. But again, for people out there that are like, okay, great, Zoe and Josie, like, I don't study this kind of thing. I'm not really into psychology. What are you on about? Well, what I would like us all to think about is, you know, imagine when we've all been in love, right? You know, it's one of the most beautiful feelings. It's what we all kind of long for, right? Like to prolong that feeling of, yay, I am seen and you are seen and we are one, and, you know, all of that, right? But, you know, in the initial stages of being in love, the reason why it's such a drug is that, you know, you have this sense of almost like floating, this sense of like anything is possible.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful, but actually in that anything is possible state, are you a different you? No, you're not. All you're realizing is that there's a part of you that is allowing yourself to think a little bigger, to feel a little bigger, to embrace opportunity and possibility. Because actually when we fall in love with the potential, right? Not just of me and him or her, but also of what the future could be. We fall in love with this potentiality, right?
Yes,
it means
totally.
our brain, our focus goes from like, oh, these things are lacking in life, to all of a sudden, oh my God, there's so much opportunity out there, right?
Yeah, it's an expansion, isn't it?
It's an expansion, totally. It's an expansion. So just again, for listeners that are maybe new to this world or this work, we've all been in love and you've all had that experience of like, oh, anything is possible. If this person is into me, or if that thing, or even a job, like you land some amazing job, for a split second, you have a moment where the normal judge or the normal inner critic is like, basically doesn't exist. And there's a brief moment where it's like, oh, if I can be this, what else can I do, right?
Yeah,
Like you said, I
exactly.
want to build an empire. So I just want to like highlight that whether or not you've ever studied psychology or anything like this, we have all experienced moments like that in our life. That means all of us who are listening right now, who's in this experience, listening back, whatever, have all experienced a state where there is a part of us that just deeply knows, beyond the voices, beyond what your mom said, your dad said, your mentor said, your teacher said, your whatever said, that told us, there's a part of us that exists beyond all of those other voices. And this part of us that exists beyond that knows our own greatness and our own limitless potential.
I think that's the true self. So you know, it's the true self. So I think you're born and you're like, I don't know, a blank slate, hopefully, depending on what's gone through in the womb and maybe some other lives, who knows? But here you are, this blank slate. And what you need really is one or two caregivers reflecting back to you, being curious about who you are. That's how you build your sense of self. They're there. But so much that doesn't happen. I don't know, the parents are addicted, they're not present, there's stuff, their own generational trauma, you know, they're mentally ill, they're physically ill, you know, you're put in an incubator, all sorts of things can happen. So many interruptions to you getting that mirroring. It's actually kind of rare, actually. Well, I see it as rare because I don't really see it much in my job, right? But I do meet people who do have it. And you know, that's how you create. So when you don't have that, you kind of break away from yourself, you separate from the true self, and it creates the false self. And the false self believes, I'm unworthy, I'm defective, I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm too much, I'm not enough. You know, the sort of, you know, in the sort of Dead Sea Scrolls of all the things that you are too much of or not enough of, in some ways, that you're bad, defective, unworthy, unlovable. And then from there, you're like, oh, I can't bear feeling this. And some people might go into collapse from that. They might go into like heroin addiction because it's so painful. Yeah. Some people might be like, right, I need to escape from this through the many mediums that we can kind of temporarily escape. I don't know, plastic surgery, success, you know, love and relationships, you know, and all of these are not necessarily, they're you know, good things, you know, same plastic surgery, but, you know, the healthy kind of routes to wanting to fall in love, be successful, make money, they're all legitimate, right? But it's when you're using it as like an escape route. We've all done it. When I've done it, like when I get this thing, then I'll feel okay.
Yeah, right.
But then it just moves. It just, the goalpost always moves. This is why I can work with people that are billionaires. Like, I need to be trillionaire, then I'll feel all right. Or if I'm this weight, then I'll be okay. And when I'm with my person, then I'll be all right. And it's like we're kind of kicking the can down the road in terms of our self-love. But the truth is, really, it's not about adding more and more and more externals. It's about combing through the trauma enough times so that false self collapses, and then you can start to return to your true self, that's when you get those glimmers of like, I can do anything, because the introject isn't in charge, that voice isn't in charge. It's like your true self bursts through, and then because the conditioning is so heavy, those moments can be far and few between, but if you keep on working it over time, then you can embody your true self more and more. That's the goal anyway.
100%. I loved it so much. So personally, I remember when I was turning 30, I was in a little bookshop in Glastonbury, and
I've just been to Glastonbury. I got back yesterday night.
Oh, I love Glastonbury's. I've run lots of
sacred land, isn't
it?
Right.
Oh, it's
you like the Abbey. The Abbey. I'm obsessed with the Abbey. The high altar at the Abbey.
Me too. I know. Oh, it's so good. And what's really sweet, so is that so that time when I was turning 30, at the time I was in what I thought was a beautiful relationship, and then the guy, bless him, all of a sudden turned around and all I had said was, when I turned 30, I don't want a big party. I want to go away. I want to go to Glastonbury. I'd never been to Glastonbury before, but I had this calling. I was like, I must go to Glastonbury, and I had not done any research. I never do it. I was just like, there's something for me in Glastonbury,
Yeah.
So I was like, we need to do this thing, and then like 2 days before my birthday, he was like, I can't do this. This is too intense, too much, too soon, da-di-da-di-da. Essentially, I was too much. And he was like, maybe we could do like, he was giving me crumbs. Maybe we can do like half a day in Margate, and then he would feel safe. And again, like, oh my God, like in all my relationships, not later years, but early years, I was always a therapist for everyone. And I was like, I understand. And then I was like, hang on, I don't understand. No, you know what? This is okay. If you can't give me this, then the one thing I can do is I can give to me what I need. And so me sort of being like claiming my power at 30 was a huge deal. So I was like, I am taking myself to Glastonbury. And I was there and I had the most incredible experience. And but anyway, at some point during that experience, I was in this bookshop and I came across Louise Hay's books. One of them, not the big one of You Can Heal Your Life, but like a small one, which just has all of the affirmations.
Yes.
In there, right? There's an affirmation for whatever you are, your emotional ailment or your mental ailment or a physical thing. So maybe it's, again, a knee thing like I came to you with, right? Or whatever it is, your heart thing, or you have a skin thing or whatever it is, right? And then I started to read it and I was like, to me, she made so much sense. So Louise Hay, her whole thing is like, until you start to realize that there's another you that exists beyond all of the 5,000 voices in your brain, until you realize that, you will just be repeating all of the voices that told you who you were and who you were not. And then she was like,
oh yeah, I love that, who you were not.
Right. But there is another way we can do this, and the brain learns by repetition. If you want to start feeling different, you need to start changing your thoughts. You just need to start changing what you constantly affirm to yourself, right? So if you're constantly walking around, and I know that you know this, sorry, but just for listeners out there, if you're constantly walking around and you're constantly noticing evidence of your lack of worth everywhere, like, oh, that person didn't message me again. That essentially that means I am not lovable, right? Or
that's so interesting. I always talk, the negative evidence gatherer. I had to really change that. Actually, it was almost like this sort of, it's almost like a lawyer going and getting negative receipts on more evidence of why you're not good enough.
So what I did, so I popped up, her book appeared in my life, and this for me was a system where I was like, because I'm such a disciplined person, and I was like, oh, I've been doing the wrong discipline. I've been practicing the negative evidence. And I was like, I need to just change it. Like, it was such a light bulb moment, right?
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
And it was also that thing that I was like, okay, so I'm 30 years old. For 30 years, I've been playing the old record of all of the evidence of why I'm not worthy of XYZ, right? And I was like, I just need to change it. And it won't be overnight. But I felt like I had a frame book I could work by. So every day for a year, for 30 minutes every day, I sat down and I repeated a new affirmation every single day.
Oh, amazing.
And then I actually put it on Instagram. That's just because to keep myself accountable. And I also was like, well, if it can help me, hopefully it will help other people. And of course, again, nothing changes overnight. But I noticed that my first default started to shift a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. Like I would go down the street.
It's cumulative, and this is the thing we need to realize. You know,
Exactly
we
it.
can't turn ourselves on and off. It's kind of like it's a gradient.
Exactly. But it is gradient over time.
Yes.
The only way is up over time, right?
Yes.
And then what I also started doing, this is then going back many, many years because now I'm nearly 40. But I created this. So you know how you see it, it's it was almost like getting an evidence receipt on the negativity.
Yeah.
I started to write down an abundance evidence list. So for nearly 2 years now, I've been like, I was practicing gratitude for a long time, writing down little things that I felt grateful for, but then I started to go into things that I was really proud of, and then I started writing that every day because again in my head I was like, well, everything works on repetition.
Yes.
I know one of my own strengths is discipline, so I just need to commit to a system that works for me, especially if it's my own system. I like that. So you know, so if it's just right, and especially I would even like, so now I even write things down where I'm like, I put it in the future, but present tense. So it will be like, thank you so much for, thank you so much for looking after my beautiful flat, right? For instance, some of those.
Yeah.
And then like, I noticed I was a bit worried about, will it really be looked after? And then I come back a week later and I'm like, oh yeah, that did come, it's a way of kind of working with future self, but it's also a way of just constantly reprogramming my brain and never ever thinking just because it's in my brain doesn't make it real. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that the statement that I notice is coming up in my head like, oh, she did this and that must mean that I am XYZ. It's like, no. It's just a thought. And a thought can be changed. So
yeah, it's amazing. And all these things are great because it's re-templating, isn't it? It's re-templating. It's like we're doing to-do lists, which creates scarcity. Because all these things that haven't done. What about all the things we have done and all the good things that did happen? Because we can be like, oh, it is that focus on the negative. And then look, it's beautiful when we can re-pattern and re-template in these ways because we have to. Because it's not just a conditioning from depending on the severity of our backgrounds. It's also, there's like a lot of negativity out there. And we're subject to so much noise. We have to like really work more than ever to build our sort of health, wealth, community, sovereignty bubble. I call
100%. And I just want to shift the focus back to you again, because I just think the fact that the background that you came from, and then leaving school, and then this whole thing of like you kept mentioning, which was just so heartbreaking, like everyone kind of laughing at you. You kept saying the words, no one took me serious. And I was like, and I really got that, like no one really saw you. They saw an outside persona, but they didn't really see you, right? And then finally there's this person, this Dr. Keith, what was his name?
Dr. Keith Hearn.
There we go, right? And he believed in you, and he
just need one person.
This is exactly it. And I think this is such a strong message. Like you just need that one person, but also at that point you were willing and ready to accept that maybe there was this part of you that you were willing to share with the world. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to also reach that part within your own mind.
Yeah, I mean, I was so terrified. I was terrified and ashamed. I was so terrified and ashamed. But I thought, just do it anyway. And it was an amazing life lesson because what I learned was that you don't have to believe in yourself to do something. You just have to do it, and then the belief comes.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it.
It's working. So because we can wait around. I know people do like kind of course strength, they'll do course after course. Of course, they'll never start. It's like, just start. And I'm so like that now. Like I can't bear sitting in meetings. I'm like, no, I just want to get on with it. I'm very experiential. I'm like, I like to learn by doing, because it's like, well, then I'll, I like to just get on with it. I don't want loads of theory and stuff like that. I'm terrible with things like instructions, and I'm often blowing things up because I'm like, oh, I'll just forget out myself. But I just want to get, it's the Sagittarian thing, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Exactly. Oh my God, I'm so with you. And I love that thing that you just said, that it this whole thing of like, you don't need to know it all, and you don't need to like even fully like understand it all. Like you just need to start, and you don't need to like, don't wait for motivation to kick in, or don't wait for that now I feel fully prepared moment, because you're never going to feel fully prepared.
Oh no, that's the thing, is another saying by Dr. Sheldon Copper, and we're probably quoting the wrong name, but they said, he, don't know, he or she, they said I've never set out for a journey for which I felt adequately prepared. We're never going to feel ready to do any of the things. And another one, and I always have like quotes because I use them to propel me forwards a lot of the time. It's Ralph Waldo Emerson. God, I sound pretentious quoting those people, but he said, I'm going to paraphrase this. This isn't the right thing, but I sort of changed it in my head. You get the energy to do the thing by doing the thing. Like so many of the time, I'm like, I don't want to do the thing, whatever the thing is. But then I do it, and I'm like, oh, the energy has come.
Oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. You get to energy to do the thing when you do the thing.
By doing the thing. Yeah, you just start doing it, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can do the thing. Because sometimes, because we do meet so much resistance, we just day to day, we get tired, we get fed up, we can't be bothered, I can't be asked.
Of course. And it's also like, actually, this is a really beautiful thing as well, because I just got back after teaching at the Royal Danish Ballet. I was teaching them yoga, and this is quite emphasized. I know it's a side story, because so I started out in life at the Royal Danish Ballet for 7 years. That was part of my own, part of the amazing journey about Josie and part of the greatest shame about Josie. So this is part of my own story. So to be asked back 24 years later was like a movie moment. Like, because I did not apply for it. I didn't know they had a thing. Like, it just literally, sorry, it came out of nowhere. And I was like, yes, like it was this thing of like, it wasn't the feeling of like being chosen or somehow like, you know, that they were up here and I was there. It wasn't that, because I'd done so much to just actually find me, and I'd reframed it so much. But when it came out of nowhere, what it did feel like was the acknowledgement that I felt really good in me. I felt like, this feels so right. I'm going
and it's on your own terms. It's another.
This was my point. It was adult me.
Yeah, and it's re-templating. That stuff's so good for the inner kid. And
that was exactly. My inner kid was like, she was jumping, bouncing around. It was absolutely
going back on our terms with our thing, with our creation.
It was it, because like I also left after, you know, having the last 2 years. I was massively abused, sadly, but anyway, and I left. Thank you so much. But I left that abuse, and that's always been a big deal in my head. That yes, I had all that trauma, but I choose to leave it. I didn't stay in it.
Yeah.
And then
right, because the thing is with those cycles as well. You know, well, it's a boiling frog thing. You know, you don't, because it's draining so much out of you that you can't start to not see it, and then you start to go into. They're very addictive, those cycles, in a way, because you just believe that it's your fault at some level, and neurochemically you start to think this. You lower and lower and lower till you're like, and you're trying to get to a place. If I'm just do this X, Y, Z, then they won't abuse me. It's like a cult or something. But then, you just got to cut your losses, which is really painful and takes a lot of courage.
100%. And it was this thing, like I realized, because lately I took on a publicist, and I started writing all these articles, and a lot of them asked me to write about my experience with my upbringing, right? You know, and that's a huge part of it. And as I was writing, I was like, that's in a good spot. And then as I was writing it, there's the whole nother layer of emotion that came out through writing.
Yeah, it's so different. It's amazing. When you start writing, you remember so much stuff. Like when we start writing things down, we're like, oh my God, I didn't know I felt like this. Like writing is so powerful for real. I didn't realize I still felt like this. I feel that.
Right, exactly. That's it. And it's like adult Josie may not have felt like that, but Josie, who was like 12 and 15, absolutely felt like that, right? And so there was so much. But anyway, I popped back in, reappeared as the Josie I am now, and it felt so good to just go back in, but being taller on all levels and feeling really grounded and good in me, and especially that I hadn't even applied for this. I had not asked for this. It was them reaching out to me and going, we've noticed you in the shadows. This is looking good. We would like a little bit of you. Come on in with the you-ness that you've created, that you've become, you know. Beautiful. It was just really gorgeous and a beautiful experience. But anyway, with the kids there, the young kids from all around the world, I had 38 students between ages of 13 to 17. My key message was this whole thing of like, you know, keep dreaming, and it's not going to be easy, but you know, like, but it is so courageous. It's so courageous to keep following your dream, and whether that dream changes shape, because it will. One day it's ballet, one day it's another thing. It doesn't matter. But courageous and keep showing up, and that's relating to your thing, like keep showing up, because you don't have to feel amazing in order to do something amazing.
No, you can feel terrible.
That
Actually.
was my right.
Just do the thing anyway. I read this other thing once. He said,
Exactly.
like, with fears, you don't have to face, you don't have to do it well. Just face them. Face them and just like do it. I've done things, and I'm like, I remember the first time I remember being asked to do. I had a terrible fear of public speaking for years. Like, again, the shame came into that. I was like, and I think shame's really linked to public speaking, because you're obviously being seen, and you think, oh, they're thinking I'm awful, etc. And I'd never done. This is so typical of me. So Sagittarian, they were like, I'd never done it, any public speaking. Couldn't even stand up at a breakfast meeting without my heart pounding out my chest to say my name, say hi, I'm Zoe. So then someone asked me to do a talk, because I was always really great at speaking people one-to-one, right? So then people would think, oh, she's quite eloquent, let's get her to do a talk. So they were like, do this talk. And I decided, I don't know what I was thinking. I just threw myself in deep, and I was like, yeah, I'll talk to like 100 people. And my topic I chose was the dark night of the soul. I'd never done any public speaking. Anyway, I was so anxious that I couldn't actually prepare. So I just thought, I'm just going to trust myself. But really I was just doing magical thinking somehow it's just going to be magically okay. I should do it all the time. Magical thinking was such a defense for me. It's taken me years to come out of it, right? Saying that, I still believe in magic, but there's a difference between magical thinking and magic, right? It's a bit of a nuanced piece, but anyway, I was doing magical thinking of like, oh, it's fine, I'll just do this and be fine.
Yeah.
The talk was meant to be 45 minutes. I spoke so quickly that it lasted 7 minutes, and several people asked me if I was on drugs, because I just paced up and down. I was so adrenalized. But the thing is, and it was awful. And it was being filmed. Someone said, do you want to see it? And I was like, I really don't. I really, really don't. It didn't make any sense, and I knew it didn't. And the whole thing was a disaster. But you know what? I did it. Do you see what I mean? I don't recommend it for anybody at all, because it was so bad. But it's kind of like, you do these things, and now I can speak really easily. I feel so comfortable. I really enjoy doing it now. I can do like live news interviews and stuff, and it's fine. I think on my feet, but I was so ashamed. And again, it's another thing, you can metabolize it, and you don't have to do it well. I mean, I don't recommend anyone does anything like that. I think it's better to ease yourself in. That's so me, to kind of throw myself into something. I try and be much more compassionate with myself now, and just think, no, that's actually going to be too much. I wasn't respecting my own nervous system, because you've got to face fears, but you've got to do this sort of middle ground. It sounds so boring, but health is in the middle ground, right? Because you don't want to avoid everything, because anxiety loves avoidance, but also continually, I always had this, sometimes trauma can in a way give you sort of superpowers. It sounds like a really bizarre thing to say, but trauma does give you superpowers. So I was able to just push myself really hard through things. And I used to call it the forcing energy. So I'd force myself to do stuff, and I try and be much more balanced now. I try and get things done. I encourage myself. I'm like, come on, can do this, remember why you're doing it, get the energy to do the thing by doing the thing. But my way of growing for a while was just to throw myself into really big situations. And it was like, someone pointed out to me, so you don't have to do it in such a dramatic way. And I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't considered that,
Right. And I loved it.
Yeah.
No, I loved it so much, and that is so true. And and again, like, this is why I mean, that's why I love talking to you, but it's also, that's why I always, in all my podcasts, whoever it is that I'm sitting down with, is always that thing of like, let's go back and let's really tune into the beginning, because the beginning is always in the background, right?
Yeah.
So like you were plunked in, like you said, into that big traffic jam, right? And not even a traffic jam, because then there's like no movement. You were in like high traffic on a fucking motorway, right? A highway, like lines, roads above you, below you, inside, all around you, right? So like your nervous system is used to this like high anxiety all the time. And that is such an adrenaline, right? Like, it's so addictive, because it's that thing of like what your nervous system recognizes as being safe is highly unsafe. So you were used to complete chaos in many ways, right?
Yeah, and also, it's so funny, because I kind of specialize in working with adult children of alcoholics, dysfunctional families, right? That's the umbrella term, 12-step recovery umbrella term for like, people with complex PTSD traumas. And a lot of them, if they become like the fight-flight type, they're like, they'll be like an A&E doctor, and to chill out at weekends, they run an Ironman, It's like,
yeah, exactly.
insane levels. And I'm like there to like bring them down into feet. And I was like that. I could just go. insane work ethic. It just work, because you're kind of out of touch with yourself, really. And I've had to relearn to be more balanced, because I would just be so tenacious and dogged, you know, which was a gift that I had from my background. I'm glad I had that, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have made it. Do you know what I mean? But you know, then I had to learn to tweak that, because you've got to love the defenses, because they kept us alive, they kept us survive. But they can keep you, like, I would always fighting, and I'd be like, why am I'm just going to the post office. Why am I being so intense? Do you know what I mean? Mission is always so intense, and I was like, what is, you're not on fire? What?
Oh my God, okay, like, so like, listen, like, I'm sitting here and this is ringing so true for me. I'm like, because like in my inner world, I'm literally like a gladiator woman. I'm always like, you know, and I'm also the side, you like, right, it's like, I'm like, here I am, right? Exactly,
like Sainsbury's.
Totally. And it's like, in a way, it's so good for so many things in life. And then
you get shit done.
Oh my God, you get
so
much shit done, right? But then on the flip side of that, it also means that then when you're all of a sudden you've decided to take a day off, all of a sudden perhaps you meet a partner like mine who's like super chilled. My whole world is like, hang on, what's going on here? Like this is oddly exactly, this is oddly chilled, like this feels very unnerving. And it also, to me, like that's like a real challenge and like an exciting thing to me, to start to learn to appreciate that stillness. What I see that as lack of momentum, lack of movement, lack of action, and also means highly unsafe. You know, lots of people would call that boring. They're like, oh, you know, oh, like that's so quiet, it must be so boring. And it's like, no, actually, this is just really peaceful, and how nice for my body. But because my body is still adjusting to it, and it's used to being like,
totally. And because I'd have a day off, and I'd be like, about cleaning, right? Let's do this. Let's massive thing. It's like, you're meant to be resting. You know, I've trained myself. My problem is not motivation. My problem has been relaxing. You know, I can do it. I'm so much better at it. But I'll be like, right, I either want to have loads of fun. Where's the dopamine? I want to work really hard to create something. And then, you know, you have the day off and you're like, maybe you should start this new thing today. So yeah, I've had to allow myself. It's kind of like, I say to myself, I remember talking to my supervisor about this, and she was like, Zoe, it's not that rest is like, oh, it's a nice idea. She went, it's vital.
necessity.
Oh, true. Yes, and it's a basic need. It's not like, well, that sounds nice, you know. It's, you know, so yeah, it's interesting the way we're wired. And then you have, because it's such a strength, but then of course then it's coming down from it. And I work with so many people that are like that. They're the clients I get more than anything, actually, you know, that have obviously come from, you know, their nervous systems have been cattle prodded into like on, and they're still in on, and they're on, and they're getting, and then you start to feel exhausted with being on. And also you can't stay in on. At some point your nervous system goes, right, I'm going to drop you into freeze response just so you can have a break. And then you're like, oh, I feel terrible, I don't know why, you know. And I had that, I would go into a bit of collapse, you know. I never stayed there. And I do think, you know, some people who've had such severe trauma, actually, you know, I think we've all got a sort of nervous system preference, if you like, or tendency to go towards, not preference, but like with a fight. You know, I've got friends who'll get really angry and they'll flight, which is what I was, which is kind of running and being quite perfectionist. And then there's freeze, obviously. You know, I know people know these things, but it's always good to remind us. It's like a traffic light system where it's like numbing out, can't get out of bed, no motivation, bored, like lo-fi kind of addiction, like overeating, stuff like that. And then there's fawn. That's another thing I should do, like the people pleasing, powerless, no boundaries kind of things. And we can all have a tendency to go to one, especially when we're under pressure, and learning to come out of those and realizing what kind of type you can be is so vital for your recovery, I think.
100%. And I just want to sort of like tap something into that conversation, which is this whole thing of like, you know how you mentioned, you know, sometimes, you know, so you're working with clients, working with people also, like both you and me that are like, you know, our default is so to be on, right? To be on to the point until the body goes off. And I think, but this is a really important notion to understand, that the body is out of all the systems that we've created as human beings, we have yet to create a system to understand the system that it is as sophisticated as our own body. So our
I
own body is
know.
self-soothing, it is self-healing, it is self-regulating. So like you just said, so those of you out there that are like always on, I'm sure you have all experienced, myself included, where you, all of a sudden it's not your choice and all of a sudden you're out. Because
Yeah.
your body will always, whether we call it burnout, whether you have like
Illness.
illness,
Yeah.
whether you have an injury, whatever it is, something will
Even
happen.
depression, even depression.
Depression,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Something will happen where it's like, whoo, time to
Yeah.
calm. And the body or life, whatever you want to call it, it's not doing it to punish us. It's
Yeah.
actually doing it to regulate us. And I think this is just wisdom of the body that is just so good to get in tune with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that thing of like your body, actually, unlike your mind, it has so many, the brain will always want us to keep us safe first and foremost, right? But what does safe look like? What does it feel like? Blah, blah, blah. The body is so on your side. The body doesn't have a
Yeah.
hidden agenda. Your body is not out to like get you in any way, shape, or form. Your body's like, you wake up, you're a bit tired. Your body will just power through. Then you wake
Yeah.
up, you're a bit tired. Now you have a cold. The body will power through. Like the body is there just constantly quietly talking to you in the background until it has to scream and shout for your attention,
Yes,
right?
and this is it, and it does, and they do start screaming, and it's kind of like, and I've known when I've been overriding, and also the thing is as well, when you go through trauma and stuff like that, and well, there's so many layers to this, but like you're disconnected from your body, because you're not connected in that way. So coming back to your body is so vital. It's so beautiful. All the amazing work that you do in the various iterations of the work that you do, which is so great and multidiscipline. Is all about, obviously connecting with that innate wisdom that the body has. And I remember someone saying years ago, before I really understood anything, through this, the body's got its own intelligence. But of course it has, My friend really cut her hand the other day. And she was like, wow, isn't the body amazing how it just starts to, like, it just knows what to do. And it is just, I know this is a really obvious thing to say, but it's like, it is so fascinating what the body will do. And also we're living in this time, and we've got more metabolic disease than ever. Tech, all these things that drag us away from our body, actually like the horrors of the modern world. I'm going to say it, the horrors, there's horrors of the modern world. It's kind of like, not saying some of these things aren't useful, like tech and AI and all these things that I use, but we have to keep in balance because it will, I mean, look, everything's a double-edged sword, right? Everyone's got this incredible information about trauma and healing and recovery, and some of it's more accurate than others, that wasn't available before. Right. In the 90s, no one knew anything. I know when I was in the 90s, no one went to the gym. Well, none of my friends did. Right. No one even drank water. It was just like nobody went to the gym. If somebody went to the gym, it was like really square. We were like, no, we go raving. So everything has changed so much, and we're living in such a fast-moving ocean, and we are becoming more disconnected from our bodies. But then at the same time, there's another whole movement, isn't it, with biohacking and everything else. So then there's a whole movement where people. Yeah, there's a kind of resurgence against that, where people are really, really looking at. No one talked about gut health in the 90s, did they? I mean,
oh my God, no, 100%.
No one knew anything about that.
And even the word energy, right? That's within the last 10 years, like, and even, something being positive and negative. And, like, even like we should change how we think, like all thoughts create our reality. That used to be just belong to the cultism over here, right? It wasn't of everyday kind of like, now it's kind of a buzzword, of course, So even mental health, like organizations, all the companies I go into, and I'm sure you go into as well, they say, they didn't have a HR person really, like, it was kind of in a dusty office somewhere. Like, it wasn't like, let's put people in. We have mental health awareness week, we have ADHD week, we have whatever. Like, this is so much modern day society.
Yeah.
But I want to pivot back to you. So sorry.
Yes.
Where are you at in your life at this moment? So how long has your business been going for? And are you still mainly thinking to stay here in London? Are you all around? Like, where are you at personally for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was an interesting time, actually. So, yeah, I mean, look, I've got this beautiful team in the lovely office here. It's a joy, the team feels like a little family that I've kind of created. It's really kind of harmonious and cool and fun, and they're all beautiful. And a lot of them are wounded healers, like the same as me, which give you that real embodied thing. So, you know, it's great. So it's a joy, the business. I'd like to step back a bit from seeing clients just because I've been doing it for so long. I would like to spend more time working on the business. I love the business. I'm actually launching a podcast. I'm working with a friend of mine called How to Recover. Yeah, called How to Recover. So we're just starting to record some stuff now. So that's part of it. Really want to write a book. And funny enough, I have been thinking, do I want to stay in the UK? Because it's like that's been coming up for me recently.
I
Like,
know.
you already know?
I had this strong feeling. I was like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure you want to stay in the UK. And then I was sitting here and I was kind of thinking, is that too private a question?
No, it's
But then
fine.
I
I'm
was
hoping to
like,
open book.
you can just
Yeah.
say no, you don't want to talk about it. Okay, talk. Yeah, tell.
Yeah, no, it only came in recently, and it's so funny. My shaman friend said to me the other day, "I can see you're buying a property abroad." I was like, "How's that going to work?" But you know how these things work. Like if someone said to me like 6 months before, "Oh, you're going to be a hypnotherapist," when I became, I was like, "No," didn't know these things. So I know I love where I live in Hampstead. I'm really happy. I love here. Everything's beautiful. The team are beautiful. I want the team to be as busy as possible, working really, really hard on lots of different things, get involved in lots of society. So it's all good. I've been in London since I was 17. I moved here when I was 17. So I've been here
Okay,
forever.
so I moved here when I was 16, so we also have that in
Yeah.
common. So
Oh,
I moved
wow.
straight from Copenhagen, Denmark, where I was born and raised. I moved out of my childhood home when I was 16, not to another house around the corner, but to another country, to London.
Wow. I always really admire people that do that because it's such a huge thing to move to another country. I'm always impressed when people can drive in other countries as well. Probably because I've never bothered learning to drive because I've always been
Me
in London.
neither.
I'm so glad you're the only other person I know that doesn't drive in the world. And I'm always like, oh, I feel really rubbish for not being able to drive. But if I didn't live in London, I would drive. But I just think that I may as well. For me, driving in London, well, we've got great public transport, right? I love
No.
the tube. I love the tube. I know it's like dirty and stuff like that. I don't care.
Oh my God, I love it. And I'm a great
It's great to get
passenger.
moving.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
it's
good.
fine. Yeah, exactly. So, but I just think if I got a car, I might as well just set fire to a load of money, like the KLF did, and set fire because you can't park. There's loads of traffic wardens everywhere. Like you can't get anywhere. It's totally congested. There's all different charges. Like, why would I drive? So yeah, but it's so funny because I have been thinking, would I go to another country? I'm thinking about where that would be. So that just come into my consciousness the last few weeks. So look at how astute you are. You picked up on that already.
Wow, this is
I
amazing.
don't know, and that's all I know. But
Yeah.
these things always start from the like, tiny little germinations of like it wouldn't be for anything for a year or anything like that. And also, I always want to keep the business, right? Because it's great, but I would like a little bit more freedom. I love working with clients. I love the business, but I'm so in it all the time. I'm in it. I'm on it. And sales calls, clients, team, everything. It takes up a lot, which is great because it's my like sacred, my holy child, right? It's my
Yeah.
holy child. But it's I do think, oh, yeah, maybe some little bit more wriggle room,
Oh, of course. And also like Zoe, I love relating everything to nature. So it's like where we live, we're super blessed. We have a huge roof terrace and we have plants everywhere, inside, outside, all around. I told my partner when we were moving in together, I was like, I have two things. I have a huge amount of plants and a huge amount of books. So as long as you're cool with that, we're good. But anyway,
Right.
it's just that thing of all the plants, like, none of my plants, I say this on every podcast, so sorry listeners, but none of my plants, like, I buy them, I bring them home, I give them a house. None of them go, hey Josie, just so you know, I would quite like to get a little bit taller than 5 centimeters. Would that be okay with you? Oh, what the fuck, right? Their roots just stick out. They break through. Like the whole purpose of a plant is to outgrow its own limits. And it's the same thing as a
root
human
bound.
being,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with us. The purpose of us is to continue to excel beyond our own boundaries, our own limiting belief systems, right? So you going, I think I might want something else. Like,
Yeah.
that makes sense, like it's not that what you're doing, like it's absolutely amazing. But that you personally may want to live somewhere else, or like you said, maybe take a step back and do something else, is because there's a new you that's coming through.
Yeah.
So that's evidence of your evolution, not anything else, right? It's like
exactly. It's not like instead of, it's as well as.
That's exactly it. It's an add-on. Like my plant doesn't get up and then go down. Like my plant just goes. The roots go deeper and deeper, and the top of my plant gets taller and taller. So it's as above as below. Like they're both. It's an add-on. It's an extension. It's an expansion.
Yeah.
So Anyway, let's go into the one question I always ask people. So in the incredible experience, the lived embodied experience. I call it embodied AI, by the way. I really like
Yeah.
that word. Yeah. So in your embodied AI, with the wisdom that you sit in today, gorgeous Zoe, if you had just one or two messages for humanity, so kind of like really your personal soul messages, everything you've been through, what are one or two sort of like mantras, word of wisdoms, messages that you would like to pass on to humanity?
Well, first of all, I always want to talk about recovery, right? That is so possible, that we think, like, how, no matter how broken we've been, no matter what's happened to us, the level of horror and terror and shaming and, atrocity we could have been subject to, I do think it is possible. I think it's really important for us to believe that we can recover. And I always it's just really simple. I want to say recovery is possible. I'm not saying it's easy, because it isn't. It wasn't easy for me. It isn't easy for anyone who's gone through a huge amount. And I still work on it. No, recovery is possible. And we really need to be able to hold on to that. And there are so many people who recover from what would be deemed as the unrecoverable, and they're out there, and you can read their stories and you can use them for inspiration and hope. And there's also, things people forget, because everyone thinks everyone costs everything all the time. There is 12-step recovery that is free, that is online for everyone, for everything. Debtors Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous. There's one for even Hoarders Anonymous. So whatever you're struggling with, I don't know, 12-step recovery isn't for everyone. There is that, you can always, because people think, oh, I can't afford therapy, and a lot of people can't. I get it, I respect it, especially in these times. But there are free, amazing resources out there. So, and you're worth it. And the other thing I want to talk about is that voice in the head, the negative introject. Now, something that really changed my life was understanding that when you hear in your head, pay a bit of attention to it, because it's so important. That's what all your listeners now, not you, not paying attention, Josie. But when you hear the voice in the head that goes you, and it says it in a negative way, like, oh yeah, that's not going to work out for you. You should have gone to the gym today. You're going to put on loads of weight, or you're a loser. Sometimes it's abusive. Sometimes it's undermining. But whenever you hear the voice in your head that says you in a negative way, that's the negative introject. Now, the negative introject isn't your voice. It's the voice from the dysfunctional family system. The dysfunctional family system is like a mobile or an organism. It doesn't want you to leave it, because otherwise it collapses. So when you hear that voice, it's not even yours. Yeah, it's in your head, because of course you absorbed it growing up, but it's not you. So everything it says is a lie, but it uses half-truths to kind of torture you. So one of the biggest pieces of recovery for me, and I'm not saying I don't have to still work on it, because I do, because some days are easier than others, right? But is not listening to that voice and just going, yeah, thank you for sharing. Not today, not today. So it's not true. So that's not you. That's not who you are. It's the voice of fear, not the voice of truth. And it's not even yours. It's like that mad uncle you had or whatever, who's probably an alcoholic, etc.
Right. Oh my God, I love
That's
this.
quite a long couple of phrases.
It's the best ones ever, and I really love this. Like, this recovery is possible, and I also love what you said, which is it is an ongoing journey, and
Yes.
it is in, and all healing is, as you know, right? So it's like it is
Yeah.
never an ABC. It's never like, oh, you start here and then we do 10 sessions and then you are good. Like, it will
People
keep.
try and sell it as that, though, and that really
Oh,
annoys me.
oh,
It's
oh
just
my God,
a
I'm
TV
exactly the
program, and
same.
it's like, it's just such BS.
Right, exactly. But also, so to just, and I think like with anything, like you said, whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever it is, should I stay in this relationship? Should I not? How do I feel about myself? What should I do with my direction in life? Whatever it is, it does, it can be anything, right? And to do that thing, recovery is possible, because by saying that, first of all, you're saying it's an ongoing journey, but you're also saying, I am possible.
Yes,
You
and
are
you're worth it.
possible.
You're worth
You
fighting
are
for.
worth fighting for. Like, so in one of my books I wrote this thing. So my books always kind of happens with, like, I just get these kind of like messages, I call them. I don't walk around going,
Downloads.
ooh, exactly. I don't,
Yeah.
exactly, downloads. I don't walk around going, ooh, today is the day, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I absolutely do not sit down and think, now I will write. Like, no,
Yeah.
it
You
just
have to be
can't.
inspired, right? Yeah, I'm the same.
Kind of comes at weird and wonderful times. And one of them that came through to me was like, oh, actually quite a juicy one. Quite a juicy one came through when I was coming home from Copenhagen the other day. And it was just this voice that said, it was really gorgeous because obviously going back to Copenhagen, being in that place where so much beauty, but also so much trauma took place. All of a sudden I was on my way home, and my little sister had also shared some stories about my dad, which was also another traumatic experience for me. And I was obviously sort of thinking, I was obviously digesting it. I thought I was just thinking about going to the flight, but my whole body was digesting all this stuff. And then all of a sudden this voice came in, and it was really clear, and it was really compassionate, and it was adult me. And adult me,
Yeah. Oh, adult you.
oh, adult me is so good. Oh, adult me is
I
like
love
so
the
fucking
adult me.
awesome. I'm like, adult me.
Yeah.
Adult me came through, and she was like, it will never happen again. And I was like,
What a relief.
that's it. So it was like,
So
yes,
beautiful. Yeah.
that's it. Like, yes, other things will happen, da da da. But those specific, the moments where I was a child and I was helpless and all of that, that won't ever happen again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't need to relive it and rethink about it. Like it's so that was one thing. And then another thing was just like this thing of like, I gave up on, this was came back like a few years ago. I had this thing of like, because again, I let go of a lot of things. I left the Royal Danish Ballet, even though it was my big love. I stopped seeing my dad when I was 15. I gave up on so much. So, I moved country. Like I did so much to get away from the trauma. And part of my brain was was always going like, it is with all addicts in any kind of shape or form, even if you're like, I was addicted to dance, we can say, right? Part of you will always walk around and go, was I not strong enough? Was it somehow my fault? Was I not resilient enough? Should I have been less sensitive? If I had just been tougher and worked harder, right? And then all of a sudden this voice came in. This is about 2 years ago, and it was this voice, and it was like, I gave up on being abused, but I never gave up on me.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And I was like, oh. So it's just like
Yeah,
this
so
thing of, how you're talking about like recovery is possible. We can stop any day. We can walk away from abuse, and we can choose us. We can choose to not give up on ourselves, and letting go of that thing.
And if we're struggling to walk away from abuse, we can get support to walk away.
Yes.
I know I had to in different relationships. I had to get to shore myself up, because sometimes we're being so trained into thinking that that's what we deserve, or that's like, well, because our nervous system to go towards what's familiar.
Yeah.
Even if it's terrible, we go towards home, don't we? Then home was often like, a shit show. So we go towards that with a wig on, and then until we learn, and we're like, oh yeah, no, I've been down that road. I'm not doing that. It's a cul-de-sac.
100%. And then just before we finish off here today, sorry, because I could talk to you all day. Just that thing, like you said, recovery is possible, and you are possible, and life is an ongoing journey. We are not here to know it all, have it all, fix it all, becoming it all. We are always learning. I am always learning. Zoe's always learning. Listeners out there, you're always learning. So like, don't ever feel like, oh, but like I stopped today and then tomorrow I'll start, or today I left the relationship and then tomorrow I went back and now I failed. No, you haven't.
Yeah.
You're one step closer to knowing yourself better. And that's
life gives us many opportunities to heal, to recover, to make different choices. We can always do it. That's what's so beautiful.
I love it. With
Thank you
those
so much.
amazing words. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to stay on the line for a second. I'm going to say goodbye to the listeners. Thank you so much.